assignment, we are introducing the Beyond Barriers for our case study.
We went and collected a lot of data to figure out what we wanted to do. We called and interviewed and texted this friend named Wills, who is a wheelchair user. And he talked about how bathrooms aren't always accessible and gave us some suggestions for that. He talked about classrooms that are on like terraces are pretty hard to reach, and how we can improve communication or provide easier access to that. He talked about elevators and how a lot of time elevators are broken or there's a lot of people waiting for them who are not wheelchair users, and how automatic door openers don't work consistently, as well as there's not much accessible pickup for sports with wheelchair users, compared to like how easy it is for us to go play sports. And it really just helped us understand a lot of the struggles that wheelchair users have to face that we are oftentimes not even aware of. And it really got us thinking of how we can increase awareness with able-bodied people.
Okay, so after talking to Wills, we came up with our POV statement, and it is BYU students, both able-bodied and non-able-bodied, need the opportunity, exposure, and awareness to join wheelchair intramural sports with resources provided by the campus because students with disabilities deserve more accessible opportunities to engage in campus life, and students without disabilities need meaningful experiences that build empathy, understanding, and connection.
Great. So the way we ideated this is we took time to think about what our biggest problems and roadblocks were when we were talking to Wills and listening to the panel that came in. We came up with ideas like performance opportunity for adaptive needs show choir and wheelchair sport performance at Stadium of Fire. So at the BYU events to promote awareness. The idea we decided to move forward with is an intramural wheelchair sports league at BYU. And everything would be sponsored with BYU, be marketed through BYU, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so like Zion was saying, we kind of came up with this idea to make an intramural wheelchair basketball league. And this league is really awesome because it wouldn't just be for wheelchair users, it would also be for non-wheelchair users. So pretty much anyone can be a part of this league. That being said, maybe people who do use a wheelchair can invite their friends who also use wheelchairs or their friends who don't use wheelchairs. So it's really awesome. It's a great way for all friends to interact with everyone. And no one's limited to anything. Everyone can be a part of it, which is really awesome. And kind of logistic wise, we were thinking that BYU would be able to have sport wheelchairs enough for 2 teams because we know they're expensive. And again, there can be organizations that can help sponsor these wheelchairs, but there will be enough for 2 teams. And this way, the different teams can rotate through and play each other during this league time and not have their own chairs specifically, but have enough chairs just for the 2 teams and rotate the people.
For prototyping, when we were exploring the idea, we developed a few low cost options, including borrowing wheelchairs from local community centers and sports programs that would allow us to offer this opportunity to more people and have an opportunity for 2 teams to compete in this intramural basketball league. BYU would host a 1-day scrimmage event in the Marriott Center that invites all people to keep it inclusive and allow people to have this opportunity to compete with both wheelchair users and able-bodied people rather than the often currently pickup games that involve pickleball or tennis or different things with the weather being as nice as it is. We had simplified the rules a bit compared to the wheelchair basketball experience we had in class that would allow people to pick up the game quicker and more seamlessly so that there isn't as much of a learning curve. And with that, as it continues to evolve, there can be different levels of the Recreation Sports League here at BYU, and hopefully in the future we could get enough chairs to support more than 1 team, more than 2 teams going at once. We would gather input from participants through post-game surveys asking about enjoyment, physical difficulty, inclusivity, and mostly suggestions for future. Reaching out to individual students who use wheelchairs that we know of on campus would help us to understand their experiences, as well as reaching out to able-bodied individuals would help us understand that as well, and challenges of learning to use a wheelchair in this sports environment.
These are just some graphics to kind of help us get an idea of what it could look like or what flyers could be like. I can keep going. And then we would test the way we would test this, and what we would hope to like learn and move on with is that both communities have interests. We hope that like students without disabilities and students who have disabilities would want to participate in this because it expands understanding and helps everyone have fun. We will include everyone from like all kind of backgrounds, and we know already that sport specific wheelchairs are very expensive, and so we also know that those make a big difference in the safety and the ability to play the game. Solutions that we will find through testing is securing funding for these sport specific wheelchairs because they're so expensive. And the ideas we have for that are school funding, grants, and partnering with Sundance and Wheeling Jazz because they already have some programs that have worked with this. We wanted to use already trained student referees for intramural games to kind of just transfer over and work with BYU's accessibility office to schedule regular wheelchair basketball events, and then promote them as an option for intramurals like they do at the beginning of every intramural game.
Okay, so these are some results, progress, and ongoing plans. In the future, we would love to add sports to the league like tennis, skiing, rugby, pickleball, and lacrosse. That would be a goal down the line a little bit. And then potential results and progress. We'd love to we created new intramural sports at BYU for students in wheelchairs and non-wheelchairs. We promoted awareness to wheelchair accessibility so people, all students like know the opportunities that are available to them. We increase excitement about wheelchair sports. We also strengthen friendships so people can be a part of people in wheelchair sports and feel connected to them. More involvement of non-wheelchair users in wheelchair sports, and also talking to intramural managers about implementing this into the league.
All right, and here are insights, experience, and future goals. What that we all experience. So we'll start with Jan and we'll move through.
Awesome. Okay, so just from doing this like project and case study with my group, was a couple things that I highlighted that I really thought that I learned. The first is just that gathering empathy data is really important when like working to solve issues that we don't really know a lot about. The data that we gathered from Wills was really helpful to us before we started working on this, and so that's something that I learned, as well as having a good understanding of a problem before working to solve it. Knowing the problem before you just jump right to a conclusion or a solution is really important as well. And then I just feel like it's been really good to be more aware of people around me, and now I feel like I'm looking for more ways to be more of an inclusive leader. And like we kind of mentioned before, our future goal is to actually implement this type of league here at BYU.
I really learned how hearing someone's story and then getting to experience something from their story like builds a lot of trust together, and that it's so much easier to love someone when you feel like you've been able to walk in their footsteps. And I also, through this activity, just learned that there needs to be so much more exposure to what wheelchair users are capable of. I think it builds so much awe and trust and just community between the like able-bodied and wheelchair user communities, and allows for a lot more inclusion.
Okay, so I learned a lot of things, but the couple things that I wrote down were understanding real everyday barriers of students with disabilities that they face physically, socially, and emotionally. It's very important to be able to empathize with them, and it's also very powerful to design inclusive experiences to bring people together that are wheelchair users and also non-wheelchair users. And then I also learned how important it is to be aware of others and see ways to help them.
Great. I learned that friendship increases between able-bodied and non-able-bodied people when there's a greater sense of connection and mutual understanding, and that proximity creates connection. I've been a friend of Will's since I was 12 years old, 11 years old. And it's been super cool to grow up with him and just have that experience and perspective there.
This opportunity allowed me to understand that the connection between able-bodied and wheelchair users needs to become more mainstream, and that there are activities that are fun and challenging for both groups. And taking the time to understand a wheelchair user's experience on BYU campus specifically made me realize the intention was there to make campus accessible, but the follow through was lacking. But that we can include people in activities that I may not have initially thought of as being wheelchair accessible.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Great opportunity. Thank you.